All right, on this episode of the LPDS, we get into some very light LPDS current events, like updates. Most of those will be in the Junction. We'll talk about the LPDS Thanksgiving extravaganza we had. I think that's about it, folks. Oh, we got some sports updates, naturally. Got to talk about sports, love sports. Can't get enough of sports. And of course, we got a Nic Cage fact call coming at you guys right now. All right, Jabronis, we're back. Welcome back to Libretti Podcast Diary Show. I'm your host, Libretti. Hope everybody had a good week. I sure did. If you guys also had a good week, hit that hotline, 202-670-1114. Hotline's been awfully quiet lately. I understand people got family stuff to do, holidays and all that. How you doing? So I understand, I get it, but it's a little lonely over here without the hotline calls, so call it in, 202-670-1114. Tell me about your week. Tell me about anything. Ask me about anything. Whatever you want to do, we'll have a good time doing it. And that way you don't have to hear me making up crap as I go along here, as I usually do. So good week here at the LPDS all around. Real good week. A lot of I wouldn't say a lot of aggressive forward movement with things, but a lot of progress, a lot of good things are happening very slowly. But I felt good about this week. And then also we had the holiday, the Thanksgiving holiday, of course, which we talked about in the previous episode, but now we actually had it. So I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. As you know, my Thanksgiving was a little different than probably most people, but we'll talk about that in the Junction. But I hope everybody enjoyed their holiday. If you got to go spend time with family, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it wasn't one of those, I'm not family out of obligation. I don't like spending time with them, and it's, you know, not great for, whatever word you want to use to describe it. I hope it wasn't the case. There's a lot of people out there still that do still, have holidays and spend time with their family, but they don't like it. They feel obligated to do so for one reason or another. I know there's a lot of family guilt that goes on where that families do, one side or the other, parents to children, children to parent, whatever it is, cousins, aunts. There's a lot of that guilt of, well, it's family, so you have to do this, you have to do that. But and then people still have strained relationships with family members, and they still do it anyway because it's family. And I don't necessarily prescribe to that anymore. And I'm trying to get better at it too. And that's another thing too. Is I consider that up to be an improvement, on your health and wellness journey in life, is cutting yourself out or cutting out like bad, negative people and situations and stuff in your life. And unfortunately, sometimes that includes family members. Now, I used to be very much on the side of, well, it's family, it's blood. It doesn't matter if they're a murderer, they're still family, and you go to you go to the trenches for them. Go to the mattresses for them. You got to be a trench guy for your family. And I just don't see that as much anymore. I love my family. I'm very fortunate that I don't have anybody in my family that I despise or that I consider toxic in my world or anything like that. So I love hanging out with my family. Basically every one of them. I'm trying to think anybody off the top of my head who's like blood related that I don't like seeing or hanging out with, and it's really not anybody. I can't think of of anybody. Like I said, I'm very lucky, very fortunate, blessed, whatever buzzword you want to use to describe it. I have a great situation where I look forward to going home and seeing my family. And even when we get to arguments and we're shit talking each other and all that, it's still fine. Like everything's good to go. That's just what we do. So I don't have that situation, thankfully, but people do. A lot of people do. There are people that are not blood related that are sort of like married into our family that I do not like at all. And I spend as little time around them as possible. And things have been going great for me in that regard. And I get a lot of shit from people about that because, oh, they're still kind of family because they married into family and you got to be nice and this and that. And it's like, no, not for my own health and wellness. I can't be the best version of myself for myself and for others around me if I am living in those worlds of negativity around those people. I get very much influenced by the people I hang around with, as most people usually do. And if I'm constantly in toxic situations around toxic people and negative people, I become negative. I might fight them, I might disagree with them, and but my world becomes negative and toxic in itself, and I don't like that. So I spend little time, and I don't even feel bad about it anymore. I used to feel bad because I got the guilt. You used to get the guilt of like, oh well, it's a cousin-in-law, it's this and that, and you got to hang out with blah blah blah. I'm off of it, and I wish more people would see the importance of that. And it's not to be selfish, not in a bad way. I consider it healthy selfish. And I stole that buzzword from a friend of mine who uses it. But healthy selfish, you can't be there for others that you care about in your life if you're not healthy yourself. And if you're in relationships like that, if you're going home for Thanksgiving and holidays to family members or family members through marriage that you despise and you don't get along with and you have a terrible relationship with, and it creates a terrible version of yourself, you can't be there for others. You're just not going to be able to be at your 100% best self if you're constantly putting yourself in those environments, in those relationships. So I wholeheartedly believe that despite blood, friendship, through marriage, whatever, a toxic person in your life is a toxic person in your life, and you need to minimize your time around those people. So, long story longer, I hope you guys got to enjoy your holidays with either good friends or good family, and you were not in those toxic, emotionally abusive type relationships where you felt compelled or obligated to go hang out just because it's family or just because it's whatever it is. I hope you got to enjoy the holiday and so something you look forward to. That being said, we'll talk about my shit in the Junction. Great, great day, by the way. Anyway, real quick, I want to touch on some sports updates. Actually, let's touch on some tomato updates very quickly because that's more important to me than sports right now is tomatoes. It's not looking great, folks. It's not looking great. The weather continues to get colder at nighttime. My green tomatoes are still green. They're slowly getting to the point where I can pull them off the plant maybe soon while they're still green and give them a chance to ripen up. There's still that option, but as the temperatures continue to drop at night, it's going to be tougher and tougher. And it's sad to see. It's like an old dog getting sick and in pain, and it's like, how much longer do I got to keep these plants going before I got to put everybody out of their misery? We're still fighting the good fight. So that's all I have to say about the tomatoes, though. So that was just a quick update. I'll keep you guys posted. Now, sports. First, Juan Soto put out a video on his Instagrams, probably whatever social media he does have. And the premise of the ad was he was making this big announcement. I just spoiled it. Spoily, sorry. He was making this big announcement, and it was the who he was going to sign with, and he ended up signing with Celsius energy drink or sports drink. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I never had it before. But the way the video was filmed, it was like him walking up to a press conference and saying, "I made it. I made my decision who I'm going to sign with," to make it look like he was signing, like he made his decision on what team he was signing with, baseball wise. But it was for Celsius. Now, I'm not. This is not me bragging. This is not Monday morning quarterbacking. As soon as the video starts, as soon as you watch the video and it begins, you can clearly see it is filmed as an ad, as a sponsorship ad. The way the frames per second was, the 4K, the quality of the video, the visual. I'm trying to think of the term that they call it in the cinematic universe. It's like the rendering of the video that they used. It was clearly an ad. It's the same. It's the same look and same visual as you see in regular TV commercials. That's what it looked like. It did not look one bit like a real press conference whatsoever or a homemade video of him making an announcement at all. In fact, the whole thing itself is not how anybody makes any announcements of what team they're signing for. Go back to Aaron Judge, for all you Yankee fans, when he signed with the Yankees last year, got his contract or whatever it was last year, yeah. He didn't do any of that. He didn't slow walk up in a suit to a podium of 15 microphones with flashes and stuff and then put his hat on saying, "I choose it." No. College kids do that when they're signing with teams, basically. And it's a homemade video like in their house or at their high school or at their college if they're getting drafted out of college. And it's on a cell phone. And there's no microphones, no nothing. It's just that. This was clearly an ad. And it was, again, this is not Monday morning quarterback. This is not hindsight. And like you go back and be like, "See, I told you it was an ad. It was clear." Anybody who watched it should have seen that it was clearly an ad for something and not a real signing update. But for whatever reason, the video went viral because so many people thought he was actually announcing what team he was signing for. And they got pissed because they felt they got duped. They got tricked by this very obvious sponsorship video and nothing else. And it went crazy. There was like newspapers writing articles about how people got tricked into thinking it was a real signing and this and that. And it was, I don't want to call people stupid. I don't like calling people stupid. But come on, guys. We can't be that gullible without even doing any sort of like critical thinking. I know you guys here at the LPDS who are ride or dies and listening in all the time. I'm sure you did not get duped by that. I'm sure none of you got bamboozled into thinking that this was his actual signing update. So I'm not really talking about you guys at all. I'm talking to everybody else who clearly doesn't listen, who has not taken the lessons of the LPDS to critically analyze situations, take in information before making decisions or assessments or opinions on things. And unfortunately, the majority of the people these days still don't do that anymore. The younger generations, Randy, stop licking. The people my age, most people who grew up from the mid 80s up through now, it is few and far between that they learned how to critically think and analyze things at all. And that's what we had here, is all these very gullible people seeing the first 6 seconds of the video where he's like, "I have an announcement," and them thinking immediately, without any other critical analysis whatsoever, that this was going to be his update on who he was signing with. So I don't feel like you got bamboozled. Sorry about it. Listen to the LPDS and we can help you not get bamboozled so easily by such obvious snake oil. He obviously did that on purpose to get, to get attention, to get people talking, and it worked. So he's not the idiot. Very smart by him and his team to do that, and Celsius and their marketing team and whatever, because it got people talking for sure. I'm sure Celsius sales went up at least a little bit of a bump because of that. But we have to be better, folks. All you listeners out there, the ride or dies, please tell your friends to be better. Because some of your friends who don't listen to the show probably believe that garbage. We have to be better. We have to see things for what they are. We have to take in the information. We have to see what's going on, okay? Look what's in front of you. Look all the stuff that's going on in front of you. Internalize it, evaluate it, and then come up with an assessment or an opinion or a decision or whatever. Okay? Now, as you continue to do that more and more, you'll be able to make quicker assessments and opinions and decisions that are still going to be based in facts and logic and evidence. You'll be able to do that at a much quicker pace in your brain, which is the goal here. But for now, these snap judgments and opinions, all they're doing is getting you in trouble. They're making you look foolish. They're making you look foolish. Anybody who looked at that video and believed it and then thought, and I got bamboozled, I got tricked, you're foolish. Okay? You looked like a sucker. You looked like a fool. You looked like a bamboozled nincompoop because that's what you have become. Because you refuse to actually take in all the information. Just let things happen a little bit before you have to snap judgment on anything or snap react to anything. Okay, and the more you do it, the quicker you're going to be able to do it effectively. So I don't want to hear the excuse of like, well, that takes too long, and I need to make decisions now, and I need to have opinions now, and this needs to be quick. Nothing worth it ever happens quickly. You have to work your ass off to get to those points, and then it comes quick. Okay? What is that term we've used in sports and when we're practicing it and training and doing drills on stuff and learning new things in sports? It's slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Start it off slow. Learn the fundamentals of things. Train to the fundamentals. Get that ingrained in your muscle memory. And then you'll actually see yourself being able to do it quicker. Your subconscious will kick in. You'll be able to do those things quicker. It's the same way with critical analysis and critical thinking. It's going to start off slow. You're going to have to actually sit there and mentally pull information in or physically research things, gather the information, analyze it piece by piece, and then you can make a judgment off of that. And then as you continue to do that, the repetitions, the quality repetitions, you keep doing that, and eventually you're going to get to a point where 5 seconds into that video, not even, the video started, I was like, what is this ad for? You could see immediately, just based on the visual and how it was filmed and the bit rate and all that stuff in the video editing community, you could tell this is an ad. This is a sponsorship. Immediately. And that comes with practice. This is not a brag on my part. I still have to practice this every day because I'm still slow in other aspects of the world when it comes to critical analysis. But this one, you're watching videos all the time. You're watching sports all the time. You start, you have a lot of data to pull and practice and get those repetitions in. That way, you're able to immediately see that this is malarkey, and that's what I was able to do. So I'm not trying to chastise the nincompoops that got duped into this one. All I'm trying to do really is ask you guys to listen to the LPDS, please, and we can help you learn how to critically analyze stuff so that you don't become nincompoops anymore. No more nincompoopery. You're going to be critically thinking assassins, and you'll be able to see right through the bullshit, and nobody's going to make a fool out of you anymore. So please come over. Come to the universe. Come to the family here. We got plenty of room for everybody. Only 12 people watch us on YouTube every week. So we got plenty of room for people to come in, have a good time, and learn. All right. Moving on. New York Giants. Now, last week, New York Giants, man. Last week, I went on a tirade about how they treated Daniel Jones, who was, how I felt about him. If you don't, go back and watch last week's episode or listen to it, and you'll know. I'm not going to repeat myself on that. And I made a mistake when I was talking about them last week, and I said the mistake I made was that I thought that maybe there would be a small boost in productivity of the team because they got rid of a bad player. Because Daniel Jones, they benched him and then they cut him and all that stuff or whatever. So there was, when you fire a coach or when you make a big change like that, more often than not, there's a bit of a team boost of like, oh, we're making changes, things are going to happen, things are going well now, we're gonna be doing better now. I was mistaken in thinking that was going to happen with the Giants. I thought maybe one game, because it happened last year when Daniel Jones got injured and they put Tommy DeVito in, Tommy Cutlets, and they won like 3 games. So I thought maybe one game they'll win. I was wrong. They got absolutely BF'd. It's a family show, Terrence. I'm trying to. They got absolutely embarrassed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was like 30-0 until the end of the game. I think the Giants scored a touchdown at the end of the game. Baker Mayfield, the quarterback of the Bucs, who I wanted the Giants to pick back when they picked Saquon. Now, Saquon was good, and then the Giants blew that and fumbled that and got rid of him. But I like Baker Mayfield. After his first touchdown, he started doing the Tommy Cutlets Italian hand, how you doing? And all you could do is laugh. They got absolutely dog-walked that entire game. And then come to find out, if you were watching the game towards the end, the announcers cut the camera over to the silence of the Buccaneers. And they cut to an old man. And he is an old man. Okay? He's 87 years old. I forgot his name. Probably Gus or something like that. Wilbur. And they cut to this guy because this 87-year-old man is the senior offensive assistant for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I realize that most of his job is probably just ceremonial because he's been with the team for 46 years. So I don't imagine as an 87-year-old he's doing too much. But he's still doing something. Okay? And essentially, this 87-year-old man led their offense to destroy and embarrass the New York Giants. 87 years old. This guy should be working in our government with all the other dinosaurs that are out there leading our government. This guy has been in NFL so long. He was there when it was just an all-white league. And it was just a bunch of idiot bum, white bread-looking jabronis out there handing off the ball because they can't throw, they're not fast, they're not athletic. There's just a bunch of geeks out there. We're playing pigskin, hey fellas? That's when he started in the NFL. Back when guys were talking like that. Man, see? And all they know is he has the same X's and O's with probably the same notepad, which he wrote with a feather pen with the plays on there. And this play you're gonna hand off to Squeaky McGillicuddy. And he's going to run, and he's going to run him ragged. That's when he started. And this guy who was about to be dead, he's about to be dead. And he led his offense to absolutely embarrass the New York Giants. I mean, you can't write this stuff. Not to mention, Jersey Mike's DeVito got hurt in the game. So then they played on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys with a third-string quarterback, Drew Lock. I think that's who it was. I don't know. I think he threw for 12 total yards. And now they only lost 27-20. but they were getting embarrassed. I don't know how they scored those touchdowns. They were luck. They were absolute luck. I think actually Drew Luck's ran for two of them. Or ran for one of them or something. I don't know what it was. They stunk. The score did not dictate the actual performance of the game. And now Tommy Cutlets, who all the Ginzos in New York and New Jersey were thinking it was going to be the savior of the Giants, it was out immediately. He played one game. He got absolutely blasted by the defensive line of the Buccaneers, and he's out. That's how bad the Giants are. And it's unfortunately a proof positive that we were right, again, at the LPDS, that it was not the quarterback's fault. Like, he was not the problem. He was a problem, but he was not the problem. Because you could put anybody in there. Okay? You could put prime Tom Brady on this team right now, and he would get myrtleized. They have no offensive line. They have no consistent running backs. They have no consistent wide receivers. Even Malik Neighbors, who's supposed to be shit hot, he's pretty good. He's not consistent right now. And it's not all his fault because he gets shitty passes thrown to him, but and then their defense, their secondary stinks. Their defensive line might be the only decent thing about their team, which is only like two of them on the defensive line that are decent. Everybody else has to go. They all stink. Every single one of them stinks. The punter's good. That's the only one. The two guys on defensive line and the punter. Everybody else, if they left, no one would ever remember them. The only people I remember right now are the ones doing so famously bad that they're becoming like an attraction to go watch just for entertaining television. Evan Neal, the same guy from last year who the fans were booing because he sucked it up. He was giving up sack after sack after sack, and then he came back and started shit-talking the fans. Still sucks. Still a bust, and he's still on the team. Figure that one out. The Giants will get rid of a defensive secondary guy who's now leading the league in interceptions with the Green Bay Packers, McKinney or for whatever his name is. Giants let him go. He's leading the league in interceptions, I think. He has like 7 or 8, maybe even more at this point. Saquon Barkley, they let him go. They didn't offer him enough money. He's leading the league in rushing yards. He had more rushing yards 2 weeks ago, or last week, I guess. No, 2 weeks ago, against the Rams than the entire Giants offense had in total yards. He beat the whole team by himself. But they're keeping guys like Evan Neal, who's just a fat at this point. He's just a fat guy in a uniform who can't do anything. I could beat him on the line. They have a Jersey Ginzo as their quarterback who can't play a full game without getting hurt. They have at any defensive secondary position, cornerbacks, safeties, whatever. I don't even know their names because they're so bad, they're so forgettable. They stink. I know Pinnock. I think he's number 27. I don't even know if he's still on the team. I just know that he's also another one who is garbage and runs his mouth like he is God's gift to defense. And he gives up big play after big play after big play. The only thing he's halfway decent at is when they tell him to rush the quarterback and he'll get a couple sacks. They should just have him do that all the time. Don't guard any wide receivers. You stink at that. Go rush the quarterback. Do something productive instead of giving up touchdown bombs and then flapping your dick sucker like you're a Hall of Famer. You stink, dude. You stink. And that's the Giants update for the last couple games that they had. They had 2 games in the last week and a half because they played Sunday after the LPDS posted, and then they played Thanksgiving, and now here we are. So, Giants stink. I love them still. Don't know why. Don't know why. I'm considering flipping teams to somebody else. I don't know who yet. Maybe back to the Browns. I know they stink, but they got Jameis Winston. I love that guy. Give me 2 pounds of them crab legs. Anyway, let's get into the good stuff. I got no more current events updates or sports updates, so we'll get into the good stuff and we'll step into the cage.
Okay, let's run.
All right. Today's Into the Cage segment is proudly sponsored by Wile E. Coyote's Mobile Hole on the Ground. Have you been trying to snag your arch nemesis, but all your traps and anvils and snares just aren't doing the trick? Then get yourself a mobile hole from Wile E. Coyote today. The mobile hole is a custom made to fit in your pocket so you won't be weighed down when you're on the run or trying to keep a low profile. Then, when your arch nemesis is approaching, simply take your hole out and park it right on the ground, and he'll fall right into it without even knowing what happened. Then you can dance around and celebrate as your nemesis looks up at you in defeat, trapped deep in your hole. So to get your mobile hole on the ground today, visit www.acmeholes.com, and if you use the promo code DARKABYSS, you'll get 29% off your first mobile hole. These sponsors are falling into mobile holes these days. Love to get a real sponsor one day. Fingers crossed any day now. Anyway, the Cage fact. We all know, we talked about it recently, Nic Cage is in talks to bring back Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider, in a future Marvel movie, perhaps. Nothing has been confirmed yet, but along the same lines of the Johnny Blaze character, Nic Cage talked a little bit about the inspiration of how he wanted to play that character and some of the stuff he wanted to wear. And the inspiration for it almost came at the last minute, really. It was when he visited Westminster Abbey, which I believe is in England, but don't quote me because my brain is mush when it comes to history and geography of historical landmarks these days. I remember learning about it in high school. If my brother Nicky Sticks is listening to this, which I know he's not, he can correct me, but I'm 99% sure Westminster Abbey is in England. Anyway, he was there, and somebody recognized he was just walking around in the Abbey and what have you, and he stumbled upon this environmental summit that was going on there with the Archbishop of Canterbury and the head of the Greek Orthodox Church, among other religious figures that were there at this summit. Why they were at the environmental summit, don't ask me, but they were there, and so was he. And I guess somebody recognized him and pointed him out, and then the Archbishop saw him, and he's like, okay, come on and let's take a tour of the Abbey. So he's walking around in the Abbey, and now Nic Cage, mind you, he's wearing an all-leather suit. Okay? Don't think too hard about that one. Just, you could put two and two together. Nic Cage, leather suit, it works. Got it? Got it. So he's walking around with the Archbishop. He's getting the tour, and the Archbishop looks over and he sees the leather suit, and he looks at Nic Cage and he goes, I like your suit. By the way, I can be naughty too. Now, I'm not here to make jokes about priests and doing naughty stuff and Sticks naughty time and all that. I don't know why he thought he could say that out loud and think there was nothing wrong with it, but he said it out loud. And it gave Nic Cage inspiration now, because what he did was he brought together the character of Johnny Blaze. If you haven't watched Ghost Rider, if you haven't seen or read the comics, Johnny Blaze is a motorcycle stunt rider who makes a deal with the devil to sell his soul to become the Ghost Rider, and then he goes and he helps people as the Ghost Rider. So there's this like connection between the devil and God himself, because he's using these powers for good, but he had to sell his soul to the devil. So there's like a an inner morality pull of the character in that regard, and he he got, after this conversation with the potentially predator, archbishop, he thought, well, this is like a perfect encapsulation of the Johnny Blaze character, of the Ghost Rider character, because this is a priest. This is the Archbishop of Canterbury. Canterbury Tales. This is the Archbishop of the Tales. And he also has a naughty side, a Nicky Sticks naughty time side, self-treat. So that's what Johnny Blaze is. He's the Ghost Rider, so he's the naughty, but he's doing it for good, and that's the only reason why he sold his soul. So there's that push pull and the moral and ethical sort of conundrum of it, and from there he sort of reframed how he was going to portray the character to make sure that he added more of that element into his acting, and then he also did so in his costume, like on his leather as the Ghost Rider. He put these stones, had them sewn in, that were like religiously based stones or something like that. I don't exactly know all of that, but he put it all, he nuanced it all into the character, not just in the dress, but in the performance and the story and the dialogue and all that stuff. Now, to the normal jabroni out there, you're not going to pick that up. But here at the LPDS, I know you guys will, because we've been following Nic Cage for years now. Me, even longer. You know that. So now when you go back and you watch Ghost Rider, which I know you will, we all do, you'll be able to identify actively, like, oh, this makes more sense now based on where Nic Cage got his inspiration from. He got it from the Archbishop of Styx and Naughty Time. So there you go. That's the Cage fact. Moving on over to the Junction. Spin the logo up. We had Thanksgiving. Now, we had a great Thanksgiving. If you remember what I talked about last episode, before we had, I obviously last episode was recorded before Thanksgiving. We talked about how the LPDS was doing things a little differently than most people, because we were not going home. I wasn't going home to family, and we had some, I had close friends. We had the Creature, who had to work on Thanksgiving Day, so he couldn't go home to family or be with with the people he cared about and wanted to be with. So I was already sticking around here. So we made a Thanksgiving feast separately the day after. Now, Thanksgiving Day, I did drop by some people's houses just to say hi, drop some banana breads off and what have you. But I didn't do any celebrating on Thanksgiving. On Thursday itself, I had to prep my house. I had to get some food ready. I had to get things ready to go for our feast for Friday. Friday was Thanksgiving for us. Now, let me tell you what we made. It wasn't a lot. It wasn't a lot of variety, because I'm only one man. But let me tell you something. And if Creature wants to call into the hotline and give his honest opinion, or if he wants to leave a comment on YouTube about his honest opinion of the meal, I'm going to let him do that. He told me he enjoyed it and it was good. So I'll let him, call me out if he thinks I'm wrong about how I'm going to describe this meal, because I don't like to brag all the time. But when you do something this well, sometimes my ego takes over and I have to brag a little bit. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, because let me tell you something about this meal. Anybody who had a plate of this Thanksgiving feast, it would have blown your balls off. It would have absolutely blown your balls off, and you would have went back for seconds ballless and happy about it. Okay? Now, again, not a lot of variety, but the effort and the dedication and and the heart that went into these items was second to none. Okay? We started off first. I made a little bit of a charcuterie board, a meat and cheese board. That was okay at best. I wouldn't even call it average because we don't have access to the best Italian cured meats and Italian cheeses around here in Texas. So we had to work with what we got. It was okay. It was a nice little appetizer while a turkey was finishing up that we can kind of nosh on. I had a little bit of fruit out there as well. And then I specifically went back to the fruit after the dinner before dessert to do a little palate cleanser. But that was a throwaway basically. Now, the next throwaway, I guess you can say, the green bean casserole. I made that because we wanted to have a vegetable in there to mix things up. I wasn't going to make a whole salad. I was doing all this, solo, so I had to make sure my time was maximized appropriately to the important stuff. So green bean casserole, vegetable, easy to make, throwaway. You can't really screw it up, and it's like it can only get so good. I have yet to have a green bean casserole where I was like, wow, this is a life-changing version of a green bean casserole. I don't know how you can do that. I guess if you get like raw green beans from the ground or from a farm and you cook them yourself and then you make cream of mushroom soup from scratch, you're chopping up mushrooms, you're doing it all from scratch, and then you're making the onion crisps yourself and frying those up yourself, and everything, each individual component is homemade from scratch, and then you combine them together and cook that. Maybe even then, I would argue that it would still be tough for most people to be able to tell the difference between that and getting canned green beans and canned cream of mushroom soup and the container of French onion, whatever's. So I don't know. That's a throwaway. It's easy. It's not bad. Most people I know will enjoy it. So I enjoy it personally. I think Creature likes it too, or is not against it anyway. So that was a throwaway. It was easy. You throw the crap in a tray, you throw the tray in the oven, and you can go focus on other things. Okay? Now the next thing I made, I'm going to be biased here because this took the most effort and it was the most nuanced dish, but I think it was the dark horse for the best item we had at the table. We'll talk about the bird later. I love the bird. Big fan of the bird. We'll talk about what I did with the bird. But I made an Italian-American style stuffing, you can call it. I stole this recipe from an old classmate of mine in middle school, Rosella Rego. We went to middle school together. One of the nicest human beings I ever went to school with. I wouldn't consider us friends because we never hung out outside of school and stuff, but it was just a very nice human being. She ended up blowing up, becoming this big time. I don't know if she's a chef or a cook or what she does in the tri-state area now, but she's got several cookbooks called Cooking with Nona. She's always on these different shows and podcasts and stuff like that. Incredible talent. She posted on her Instagrams a couple weeks ago about this stuffing that she called it Italian stuffing, but it's really more like an Italian-American stuffing. And instead of making it with bread, you make it with panettone. Now, if you don't know what panettone is, some people, the Nikki Sticks of the world will overemphasize it. Panettone. It's panettone. Panettone. Just pronounce it how it's spelled. It is sort of like, I'll try to pop a picture up of it here if I remember on the YouTubes, but it's sort of like a pastry loaf bread combination thing. It's like a lighter, flakier breading, if you will, but it's not a cake and it's not a full bread and it's not really like a croissant, but it's kind of in the middle of all that. and it's got raisins in it. It's very flaky and it's light, but it's pretty big. The slices are about 6 inches high. This whole loaf, and you slice it up. You can toast it. You can eat it right there on the spot, but you can also toast it, put a little butter on it, and have it with your breakfast. It's very nice and refreshing. We would give that to Santa Claus as kids. Instead of giving milk and cookies, we would give panettone, a nice slice, to the big man in red upstairs every Christmas to make sure that he knew we were taking care of him. You take care of us. Bada bing, bada boom, and we'd be good to go. So that's what we gave him, and that's always a family. Like every holiday, where there's a panettone at my parents' house. All holiday season, there's always one getting there, and they're just reloading it. So you make the stuffing with that instead of just bread. So I rip it apart. I put it in the oven to get crisp and toasty, and then mix up the ingredients. This thing I cut up fresh celery. I cut up fresh carrot. I cut up baby carrots. I got to be a little bit objective here. I had a bunch of baby carrots that Randy likes. So I buy them in bulk. I grabbed a couple of those. I didn't feel like buying one carrot. That's all the recipe called for, one carrot. I was like, I'm not walking around with one stinking carrot. I already have a 50-pound bag of baby carrots. I'm using those. So I did that. I cut up a couple of those, threw in there. Then there was a couple other ingredients that I don't think they have here at the grocery stores in Texas. And I didn't want to drive around and finding a specialty grocery store to find these items, so I skipped that. But I did put a little bit of onion in there, chopped up some onions, and some shallots. Now, I don't even know what a shallot is. I've heard it several times because all the bigwig chefs and cooks always use shallots and cook with shallots and this and that. I have no friggin' idea what a shallot was or is. I still don't really know. All I can guess is that it's part of the onion community, the onion clove bulb community of vegetable, because it's basically looked like a white onion chopped up. So don't know. I couldn't tell you what the difference tastes like. I mixed it with the red onion that I had, and I couldn't tell you the difference. I couldn't be like, oh, this has some shallot in it, and this doesn't. This has red onion. No, couldn't give a shit less. I have no idea what it was, but it's an impressive item on people's recipes. So when you say, oh, I use shallots, people get, the ladies start getting the vapors when they hear shallots. So Sargie put shallots in the stuffing. And then we put the little broth mixture, some broth, some eggs. What the hell else is in there? A little Parmesan, grated Parmesan cheese. I sprinkled that into the mixture, threw that in there, and then the X Factor. Now, this is where I really veered away from the original recipe. Now, shout out to Rosella. It's a fantastic recipe. It's a delicious, delicious conglomeration of items. But her recipe called for a pound of ground turkey sausage. Obviously, that matches up beautifully with a turkey on Thanksgiving, especially if you're putting the stuffing inside the bird and you're cooking it inside the bird. I don't do that. I'll tell you why later. I changed things up a little bit. Okay, I went a little bit of a greasy Jersey Guinea trash a little bit, and I went with the ground pork hot Italian sausage. Okay? And I cooked that up with the vegetables in a frying pan and sauteed that and got that browned up and cooked. And then you mix that with the panettone pieces, the chunks that we toasted. And then you mix that with the broth and the eggs and the how you doing and the butter. There was butter in there, of course, too. You mix that all in there. You throw that into a tray and you cook that bitch in the oven for 20 to 30 minutes or at least until it's to your liking. Now, I cooked it a little extra because with that hot Italian sausage comes a little extra grease and oil. So I wanted to cook it longer to make sure it kind of cooked that out, soaked that out a little bit so it wouldn't be too soggy. Now, I will say in the future, when I make this the next time, I'll probably drain a little bit more of that oil out than I did this time because then I can cook it less time and it won't be as soggy and I don't have to, adjust the cook times for it. But that might have been the best thing I've made in a while, especially for a first time first time cook on that because I never made that before. I don't normally like stuffing. I've said it in the past. To me, stuffing in the past has just been like hot bread, especially since most people make it the same way. Most people buy the stovetop stuffing, stovetop brand stuffing. It's the bag of croutons, basically. Who the hell knows what kind of bread that even is? Just croutons, and you make this shit stuffing, and it's not great. It comes out too soggy or too dry, and it's just hot bread with hot vegetables in it. And I normally don't like it. But when I saw this recipe was calling for panettone and I could mix in a little sausage, that was right up my alley. Right up the LPDS alley. Let's make this a stereotypical Ginzo Wop treat for the holiday season. And like I said, first time cook on the stuffing might have been the best thing I made. It was certainly my favorite thing I made, I think, this year. I'll let Creature speak for himself if he wants to. He doesn't even have to if he doesn't want to speak up about his thoughts. But for me, I think because it was the most work, I think that's why it was more satisfying to me. When I took a bite into that and tasted how good it was, I was like, man, we did it. Just like doing all the work for the tomatoes and the vegetables, you feel better about it. A sense of accomplishment is there. This was there because it was a first time for me. It was experimental, and it turned out absolutely tremendous. When I tell you the combination of the spicy, the hot sausage in there, that little kick, that little greasy kick in there of heat and Italian and grease with that sweet panettone, toasted panettone bread. Thank God I have 2 pounds of leftovers because as soon as I'm done recording this and posting this, I'm going back for more. Sargi is hungry, and I'm going to be shoveling that down my throat. That was absolutely tremendous for me. One of my favorite things I made in a long time. Moving on. I had cranberry sauce. That's an easy one. I didn't make that from scratch because I was the only one eating it. And I like cranberry sauce because it gives a little like sweet, not floury. What's the word I'm looking for? It's just like a nice change of pace to the meal. It's light, it's sweet. And when I make leftover turkey sandwiches, I use that as like the condiment on top. So I'll go turkey, stuffing. If we had potatoes, I would have went potatoes. We didn't go potatoes this year. I like to add bacon to my leftover sandwiches, so I'll add a couple pieces of bacon on top. And then if I have gravy, I'll use gravy and then cranberry sauce to finish the fight. And that's what I'm looking forward to now is the leftover sandwiches. I can't wait for that. So that's going to be great. But I had some cranberry sauce. I made the shitty pack of gravy, of turkey gravy, because I was the only one using it. So I didn't want to make it through like with the gizzards and all that stuff, like the homemade stuff that I usually like. This is, again, throwaway. Then we had Hawaiian rolls as a little bit to lap up some of the stuff. And then the turkey. Now, I've talked about this in the past. I don't know what it is. Because every time I do make a turkey, it's not often. I don't do it every year because I'm not by myself every year for Thanksgiving. And even if I am, sometimes I'm not making a turkey for myself. So I don't have a lot of like my experience with making a turkey. Every time I make another one, it's like, oh man, I haven't done this in so long. I don't know if I remember how to do it. I hope I don't screw this up and overcook it or undercook it or whatever. But I don't know what it is about turkeys, but I just have it dialed in. I just have it dialed in, and I don't like you could shit talk me for bragging and being and saying all you want about like, oh, my turkey's better. I smoke it. I deep fry it. I do this. Good. That's great. I have had smoked turkey before. Delicious. I've had deep fried turkey before. Delicious. It doesn't. I'm telling you right now, I prefer my turkeys over that. Those are almost like novelty turkeys for me. That experience because smoking takes all day and it usually comes out a little dry when you're smoking a turkey. I hate to say it because the way you have to cook it, you can't really like, you're not basting it too much. You can't do a lot of the stuff like that. And then deep frying is deep frying. That's, you know, still good, but it's a novelty in my opinion. But when I'm in the lab for Thanksgiving, and it's time to cook that bird. It's turkey time. I almost black out, and I wake up 3 hours later, and we have a crisp skin, but succulent breasted, beautiful looking turkey. Beautiful. Cooked to perfection, but still moist, not dried out whatsoever. Let me tell you something about this thing. I sliced into it, okay? First breast, sliced into it, and it was like the inside was like sweating. It was so moist with the juices in there. It was, I had like, I was getting the vapors. My pants were getting tight looking at this thing. It was just, and I was very nervous. I was very nervous because, again, it's been a couple years since I cooked the last turkey I made, and I was nervous that I undercooked it because when I see turkeys being made by most people, unfortunately, family included, it's a lot darker on the outside. It's a lot more crisp, close to looking burnt. So I'm used to seeing that and be like, oh, that's what a ready turkey looks like. This was a golden brown. It was like a bronze tan on this turkey. And it was almost too good looking for me to think like, oh, this is not ready yet. There's no black around here. There's no char anywhere. This might not be ready. But when I tell you I cut into this and it was beautiful, beautiful white breast, full, thick white breast, fluffy on the inside, perfectly white, perfectly cooked, and succulent, sweating. The juices were pouring out of it, just saying, eat me, please. This is as good as you're going to get from an oven-cooked turkey. As good as you're going to get. It was absolutely tremendous. And that is a reason why I don't stuff my bird with stuffing and cook that, because it takes longer to cook. And when it takes longer to cook, you have a higher chance of dried out turkey. The longer it stays in that oven, depending on the temperature you're at and other stuff you're doing with it, the more chance of it for that meat to dry out, that poultry to dry out. And that's not what I want. One of the biggest complaints about turkey, what people don't like about turkey when they say it's an overrated Thanksgiving dinner, is because everyone has a dry turkey experience. I don't want just dry turkey. I could get that anytime. I like chicken better because chicken's smaller. You can cook it faster. You can keep it moist and succulent. Turkey's, it's overrated because of that. So I do what I can to make sure that that's not the case here. And when I tell you this thing was sweating out, it was a thing of beauty, absolute thing of beauty. The dark meat was delicious. The whole thing was just tremendous. It was perfectly cooked. I couldn't have done it better. I was fully nervous pulling this thing out, thinking like, I don't know if this is it. Everything lined up though. The temperature inside the meat was the perfect temperature to pull it out and let it sit for a few minutes, because the temperatures are still going to rise after you take it out of the oven, and it gets to that. I was nervous because the temperature you pull it out of the oven is supposed to be a few degrees lower than the optimal cooking temperature of a bird, of a turkey. So I get nervous when I see that. I was like, oh, should I keep it in the oven? I think that's a common mistake people make is they see that internal temperature as a couple degrees below, and instead of taking that risk and pulling out, they leave it in. And the next thing you know, you have an overcooked bird and you're dried out and people don't like you for it. But I pulled out and I let it rest and I got to the optimal temperature and I got to the optimal cook everything was just optimal. And I couldn't have been happier. Now, here's what I do with my turkey, folks. Here's what I do in case you want to give it a shot and let me know how you like that. This plan. Now, I've tried a multiple different ways to cook turkey. Like I said, I've been with people who have deep fried, they season it, deep fry it, very good. Been with people who have smoked it, watch how they do it. I've seen obviously my parents, my father, my grandfather, how they cook turkey. They cook it pretty standard. They do a brine. I've done a brine in the past, like an overnight brine in a brine bag with shit in there. And then you take it out. My dad has cooked a bird with stuffing in it, without it. Most of the time he puts some stuffing in there. I think that's what leads to the dry turkey with my old man. Don't tell him I said that, but his turkey's a little on the drier side because he puts it in there for a long time. But they do the brine overnight, and then they put vegetables at the bottom of a pan and probably chicken or turkey stock, and they have the seasoning and the brine from the turkey or whatever. They throw that in there, and they baste every 30 minutes for 3 to 4 hours at a certain temperature. And then what my parents do is they'll keep it covered, and then the last 30 minutes of the cook, they'll pull the cover off to get it that brown crisp. Now, I've been doing a little bit of the opposite of that, and I got this from my friend Rob, who makes a mean bird, and we made a turkey together back in 2012. I was living in San Angelo, Texas at the time. Was I living in San Angelo? No, it was before I was in San Angelo. I was in Pensacola, Florida, so several hours away. I went over to here in Texas to spend time with him. He actually lives down the street from me now. And we did Thanksgiving, and we made the turkey then. And I don't remember if I told the story ever, but we made this turkey accidentally upside down. This was my first solo turkey, like first turkey without my parents being there or anybody's parents being there. And we were just figuring it out as we went. And we actually accidentally put the turkey in the pan upside down. And we cooked this bad boy. Now, the turkey turned out great. We had a good laugh. Everyone joked about it because when we realized it, we flipped the turkey back over, and the way the turkey was resting on the pan and the grates of the pan, it looked like it had six-pack abs. So it's been a joke for years in Rob's family. Every time I see them, they still joke about it. They say, "Oh, you're the guy who that made the six-pack turkey." Yeah, that's what we did. Come to find out, years later, that is a thing some chefs have been recommending now, is flip the turkey. It helps with moisture. It helps with, I don't know what it does, but I had to put it on record that me and my friend Rob, the big bird, we did it first. We did it back in 2012 or 2011 even, excuse me. We were ahead of the curve in that regard. So remember that. But he makes a pretty mean bird too, and he's been doing this for a bit. So what I've been doing now as well is sort of a reverse situation. Sort of how like you cook a steak. Like if you want to cook a good steak, they tell you to sear it high heat on the pan and then in the oven at a lower temperature. So that's sort of what we did with this turkey. First things first, no brine for me. Okay? I don't even put salt and pepper on the thing. Now, people have in the past. You can. It's not going to change much. That's to taste. I didn't paint the breast with butter. None of that. All I did was this. I take Tony Chachere's injectable seasoning, I call it Tony Ciceri's because that's how it's spelled. It's spelled like an Italian guy, Tony Ciceri, but I guess it's pronounced Sacheri. I don't know. Tony Sacheri's. I don't even know if it's how it really is pronounced. I call it Tony Ciceri's injectable. It comes in a bottle and it gives you a little syringe, a little plastic syringe, and I get the butter garlic one. And now actually I use that stuff all the time when I make chicken in the slow cooker. I'll throw chicken breasts or chicken thighs in the slow cooker for my lunch for the week, and I just dump some of that in there, and that's it. That's all you need. Okay? And when I'm telling you that's all you need, I need you to believe me on this. Okay? Because it has all the seasonings inside the stuff already. Okay? You can read the ingredients and see all the seasonings that it's got in there. It's loaded with stuff. Okay? Now, I usually just use one bottle because I don't get a big bird, but if you have a bigger bird, 2 bottles of that stuff and you're good to go. And all you do is you fill up the bird with the bottle. Okay? You hit the breast from all different angles and you fill that bitch up, and you'll see it pump up. You'll see the breast get bigger. Okay? Both breasts, fill that bitch up. Hit the legs, fill all around the drumstick up. Both legs. Okay? Then you hit, if you want to hit the wings too, you can hit that too. But that thing should look fat. That thing should look beefed up. Okay? And it will. And when you pull out the syringe, the stuff's going to drip down because it's going to be full. You're going to be filling that thing up. That's why for the bigger turkeys, you want to use 2 of those bottles. Okay? And then whatever you have left, if you have a smaller bird, you have some bottle left, throw it, just put it at the bottom of the pan. Okay? Then from there, I take a stick of butter, I cut it in half, I put 1/2 on one side of the bird in the tray, 1/2 on the other side of the bird in the tray, and that's it. No turkey stock, no more vegetables, none of that stuff. Okay? I throw it into the oven. The oven's preheated to 500 degrees. Okay? You cook that bird for 30 minutes at 500 degrees. All right? At the 30-minute mark, you pull the bird out, you drop the temperature down to 350. When you pull the bird out, you put foil on the top of the bird, basically over the breasts only. Okay, basically over the white meat. Whatever the white meat is, cover the white meat only in the foil. Okay? You're going to have a nice little bit of a bronze on the skin already of the bird because it's the high heat. It's like a sear. You're starting to create that crust, but now you want to cook the bird for the optimal cooking temperature as opposed to a look. So you want to cover the breast so it doesn't get too cooked in there. So you put the foil over the white meat only and leave the legs and the wings open and the back ass of the bird open. Okay? And you throw that bitch back in there at 350, and that's roughly another 2 hours, 2.5 hours, maybe depending on the size of the bird. And all you're doing is, I checked every 30 minutes. Now you can, if you want to, you can baste a little bit, but you don't have to baste. In fact, some have said that when you pull the bird out of the oven to baste it, that those constant temperature changes is going to make it longer for it to cook, and it's going to come out more dry. I don't know how much I believe that, but I'll go in there for a quick baste. I'll keep the bird in the oven. I'll just open the door and just do a quick baste, and then I'll do a quick rotation of the pan. Flip it 180 every 30 minutes or so to check up on it. And then all I do after that is stick my meat thermometer into the deepest part of the bird, the thickest meat part, until it gets to the temperature that's supposed to be, and then that's it. That's out. And that is the simplest way. And I can't tell you how succulent this bird was. And I'll let Creature tell the truth if he wants. If he doesn't agree with me, if he's more than open to do that. But when I tell you this thing was the most tremendous succulent bird that on this side of the Mississippi, I mean it. I mean it. And my parents they got a free turkey from ShopRite up in New Jersey for, if you buy a certain amount of food throughout the year, you're eligible. You get a free turkey. So they have an extra turkey. They made one for for Thanksgiving for the family when they went over to my sister's house, and they had this free one. Now it's a butterball. I went with a nice pasture raised athletic bird. This thing was fit to fight. This thing was in the gym on a regular basis. This was getting all natural food in it. It had a healthy nutritional diet plan, a good workout regimen. This is a young, athletic, supple bird. This was a supple bird. When I pulled this thing out of the package, it had muscles. The pectorals were svelte. The thighs, the thing was doing squats. This was not some lab-created, factory-farmed, chemically fattened up disgusto bird like that butterball trash has become. This was an athletic, tight, supple bird. Now, my parents, the free bird that they got was, genetically modified, fatso steroided up, butter burkaball, jabroni bird. But they have an extra bird, and I told them if they because they didn't get a lot of bird leftovers because they had the whole family, everyone was there. They didn't get a lot of turkey leftovers. I told them, if you want, I can make that turkey for you. So you guys have the leftovers to make turkey sandwiches, turkey soup. My mom makes a mean turkey soup that my brother Nicky Sticks loves to make meals out of. So if they want all that stuff, let me make the bird, and then you tell me. You be the judge. And this is what I think is going to happen. I think my father is going to say, yeah, it's all right. I couldn't really tell the difference. It wasn't bad. He won't shit talk it, but they're not. The compliments are just not bad, and I can't tell the difference. There's no real compliment, but just no shit talking. My mom, if she likes it, she'll tell me in private, so she doesn't get my dad angry. And then Sticks would tell me the truth, I believe. And I don't know what my sister would say. I don't know if she even likes... No, she likes turkey. She doesn't like ham. I don't know how, but that's how I think it's going to go. So we'll let Sticks be the judge because I think he's the only one who actually tell the truth. And then we'll let Crazy Carol tell me in private so she doesn't get my old man angry. But there is no doubt in my mind. There is no doubt in my mind that the bird I made for this holiday would blow them out of the water. In fact, I'm sure somebody would make an excuse like, "Oh, it's not cooked enough. It's not dry enough. Are you sure it's not raw?" There's got to be a reason why it's this good. There's no way a turkey could be this good and not cooked the way I cook it. That's what's going to happen. Okay? But I know I am going to blast them out of the water with that meal. I might even make the stuffing again. I might go full Thanksgiving meal. Maybe I do it for Christmas or something. We're just going to do Thanksgiving over, and I'm going to make it, and I'm going to blow your balls off. And everyone's going to be sitting there happy, watching the Christmas Story marathon on TBS, ballless. No balls, blown off to smithereens, fat, dumb, and happy because we all had delicious turkey and a delicious stuffing, a delicious meal. And I even forgot, I made chocolate chip banana bread to top it all off. And the creature brought over Italian bakery pastries that also would blow your balls off. These things were filled to the brim with creams and puddings and what have you. There were some donuts. There was schwiedells, as the Bone Crusher calls them, pishkadills, but they were the bigger versions. I think they're called cornettos, filled with cannoli creams and pudding and whipped cream, whatever. These were each thing was 2 pounds a pop. And there was 6 or 7 pastry items in the box. Plus the banana bread. We had a little coffee after. Our old friend Beefcake from college, he was in town for the holiday because his parents live here now. He came by. He had a plate, and then we had a cigar outside. Shared a few laughs. Just an overall tremendous holiday. Absolutely tremendous. No nonsense. There was no politics involved in, oh, well, if you invite this person, you got to invite their sister and brother. If you invite this, but none of that. It was just the two fellas getting after it, and then the third fella, Beefcake, came in, and we just finished the fight. Desserts, Hawaiian rolls, turkey, coffee. Beautiful time. It was a beautiful, beautiful time. And this is one of the few times I brag is when I can do something good in the kitchen, when I'm in the lab cooking something up and it turns out well, I'll brag about that. Very few times will I brag about stuff, but I'm a pretty good damn cook. So somebody marry me and lock me down so I could cook for you for the rest of your damn stupid lives, you idiots. Anyway, that's all I got today, folks. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Before we go, very quickly, the big three, the three pillars to staying strong, and I'm sure I forgot something. I'm sure there was something else we did good in that event. It was just, I just forgot. I probably glazed over, so I apologize to the creature if I forgot anything. But anyway, the three pillars to staying strong and being a better, happier, kinder, less stressed, healthier, more genuine human being and spreading that positivity and goodness to all those around you and throughout the land. Number one, exercise every day. Do one thing to work on and improve your fitness and health physically, mentally, or emotionally. Number two, don't be a shitty person. Be a kind person. When the opportunity arises to be shitty or negative, whether it's in response to somebody or just to initiate it, even if you think that person deserves it, take the LPDS step back. Don't do anything. Omit yourself from the situation. Take no actions. Don't do anything. And I promise you're going to be able to minimize the negativity and shit going on in the world around you and in your life, and you allow yourself the capacity to go focus on more positive, productive things. Number three, the most important pillar, be genuinely thankful and grateful for all the good you have in your lives. And you could do that every day by just thinking about one good thing you have in your life and how shitty your life would be like without that. And that would immediately put you in a state of gratitude. But you have to actively do it. You have to make it a point each day to do it. And if you do that and you don't be a shitty person and you focus on your health and exercise every single day, you do all those three things every day, a little bit each day, I promise you'll be a better, happier, kinder, less stressed, healthier, more genuine human being. You'll be able to spread that positivity and goodness to all those around you throughout the land. Thank you guys again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tell your friends and enemies and hit that hotline 202-670-1114. That's 202-670-1114. Call that hotline. Let me know how you're doing. Thank you guys again. I love you all. Stay strong.